Kingston Penitentiary was never built to rehabilitate. It was built to punish, to erase, to grind human beings down until nothing was left but obedience or madness. Opened in 1835, its thick limestone walls rose like a challenge to anyone foolish enough to believe mercy existed inside them. From the very beginning, Kingston was designed as a machine, one that ran on fear, isolation, and silence. And once you entered, that machine began working on you immediately. Many inmates were never the same again. Welcome to Rabbit Hole Nightmare. For nearly 2 centuries, the most violent, desperate, and broken people in Canada were locked inside these walls. Men were buried alive in stone cells. Women were isolated, shamed, and forgotten. Some prisoners lasted years. Others lasted days. Some never made it out alive at all. And the prison remembers every single one of them. The deaths came quietly at first. Illness, exposure, neglect. Later, it was violence. Beatings, stabbings, and suicides, carried out in total silence, with no witnesses except the walls themselves. Records were lost. Names were erased. Bodies were removed and replaced. But nothing ever really left. One name, however, refused to disappear: George Howell. Howell wasn't a legend when he arrived. He was just another inmate, angry, volatile, and already half-feral from previous incarceration. He fought guards, he threatened staff, he hated the prison with a devotion that bordered on obsession. When he died in 1897, the official cause of death was conveniently unclear. What was clear were his final words. According to prison lore passed quietly between guards, Howell promised revenge. He swore the prison would never be free of him. He swore that he would stay. Today, Howell is said to be one of Kingston Penitentiary's most violent spirits. Visitors report sudden waves of rage that aren't their own. Others experience intense pressure in their temples, like someone screaming inside their skull. Heavy footsteps follow people down empty corridors. Doors slam shut without warning. Lights flicker, but only when someone is standing completely alone. Some paranormal investigators believe Howell doesn't appear because he doesn't need to. They believe he merged with the building itself. But Howell is only one voice in a much larger, much sadder chorus. The women's wing is different, colder, heavier. The air doesn't seem to move correctly there. Women incarcerated at Kingston were often treated as moral failures rather than criminals locked away, not just for crimes, but for disobedience, sexuality, or simple defiance. Many suffered complete psychological collapse inside their cells. Some of them never stopped screaming. Visitors report hearing whispers that slide directly into the ear, too close to be coming from anywhere else in the room. Others feel hands brush against their backs. Several people have broken down crying, completely overwhelmed without knowing why. Tour guides often describe the sensation of being watched by something that doesn't blink. Shadow figures are commonly reported here, but these figures don't behave like ghosts in stories. They don't drift or vanish dramatically. They just stand perfectly still, and they wait. Then there is solitary confinement. The hole. This was where the prison finished people. Men were locked in stone boxes with no light, no sound, and no human contact. Days blurred together. Time itself collapsed. Prisoners clawed at the walls until their nails split. Some begged to be executed. Some came out mute, and some never came out at all. People standing near these cells today report a chest pressure so intense it feels like suffocation. Dizziness, nausea, sudden, overwhelming panic. A sense that something is pressing down on them from above, forcing them inward. Psychologists call this environmental memory. Paranormal researchers call it residual trauma, but others simply call it a warning. Even former guardsmen trained to maintain absolute control have admitted they felt powerless inside certain cell blocks, hearing breathing right behind them, feeling fingers brush their necks. seeing movement that vanished the moment they turned their heads. Many refused to work alone at night. A few quietly transferred. Some simply quit. When the prison finally closed in 2013, the doors may have locked for the last time, but nothing was ever truly released. Modern tours showcase the history, the architecture, the reform efforts. But after hours, when the lights go down, Kingston Penitentiary becomes something else entirely. Motion sensors trigger with no one present. Security cameras record drifting lights that seem to behave with a chilling intention. Sensitive equipment malfunctions repeatedly, always in the same locations. People leave with headaches that last for days. They have nightmares they didn't have before. They carry a lingering sense that something followed them home, not physically, but psychologically. Because Kingston Penitentiary doesn't haunt you like a ghost. It studies you. It strips you down, just like it did to the inmates. It tests your reactions. It presses on your fear, your guilt, your anger. And if you're vulnerable, if you listen just a little too closely, it reminds you how thin the line is between a visitor and a prisoner. Some believe the spirits are trapped here, unable to leave. Others believe they chose to stay. And some believe there are no spirits at all, only a structure that absorbed so much human suffering that it became aware. A place that learned patterns, learned behavior, learned how to break people. The prison is quiet now. No shouting, no keys jangling down the halls, no footsteps. But silence was always Kingston Penitentiary's favorite weapon. And it's very, very good at using it. Thank you for watching. If you've ever visited Kingston Pen, share your experiences in the comments below. And for more stories about the world's most haunted places, don't forget to like and subscribe. Our second story takes us to Philadelphia's Eastern State Penitentiary. It wasn't made to hold people. It was designed to disappear people. Welcome to Rabbit Hole Nightmare. Eastern State Penitentiary was not built to hold people. It was built to change them. When it opened its doors in 1829, its creators believed they had found the perfect solution to crime. Absolute isolation. No voices, no faces, no mirrors. No sound except the rhythm of your own breathing. The architects were convinced that silence would force inmates to finally confront their conscience. What they actually created was a laboratory for prolonged psychological deprivation. And it worked, just not in the way they intended. Inmates at Eastern State were kept alone for years at a time. They were hooded whenever they were moved through the corridors, so they could never recognize another human being. Even the guards avoided conversation. Meals were delivered through a small slot, without a word, without eye contact. The world became a cell, and the cell became the world. And very quickly, the prisoners began to break. They reported hearing voices when no one was there, seeing shadowy figures in the corners of their vision, feeling the stone walls pulse or even breathe. Some became convinced the prison itself was watching them. Others believed the building was speaking to them directly, testing them, correcting them. Doctors at the time documented rampant cases of paranoia, hallucinations, and total mental collapse. But these weren't just side effects. They were the intended result. Solitary confinement at Eastern State wasn't meant to be temporary. It was meant to be total. Inmates lost the ability to measure time. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks blurred into nothing. Some prisoners forgot their own names. Others forgot how to speak entirely. When they were finally released back into the general population, or freed altogether, many could no longer function around other people. They had been reconditioned for silence. The prison didn't need chains or bars. It had already learned how to take the mind apart, piece by piece. Eastern State's cell blocks were designed like the spokes of a wheel, all radiating from a central hub. This allowed the guards to observe every single corridor at once. It was surveillance without presence, control without interaction. Prisoners could never see who was watching them, only that they were being watched. and that awareness never, ever shut off. Even today, visitors describe an immediate and uncomfortable sense of exposure, a feeling that they are visible from somewhere they can't quite locate. The corridors are wide, but the space feels invasive, as if the building itself is standing too close. This sensation intensifies in cell block 12, which was formerly death row. Here, people report a sudden jarring awareness of their own heartbeat. Their breathing becomes labored. Their thoughts become intrusive. An urgent, almost irrational desire to leave takes hold. No one is chasing them. Nothing is threatening them. And yet, their body insists they are in grave danger. This is where the horror of Eastern State becomes difficult to separate from psychology, because everything that happens to visitors today almost perfectly mirrors what happened to the inmates nearly 2 centuries ago. The isolation, the heightened fear, the distorted perception, the loss of internal control. Some visitors claim they hear whispers echoing in the empty cells. Others report being touched by an unseen hand. But many experience something far worse, something that isn't supernatural at all. They feel an overwhelming sense of being reduced, of being stripped down to something smaller, quieter, and insignificant. A few visitors even report moments of dissociation. They feel unreal, detached, as if they don't fully exist inside the building. That's not a haunting. That's conditioning. Al Capone's famous cell is often treated as a celebrity footnote, a historical curiosity. But Capone, a man who survived gang wars, power struggles, and brutal prison systems, claimed that Eastern State disturbed him on a profound level. He reported hearing a man crying at night, a voice that accused him over and over again. Whether it was real or imagined, the effect was the same. The prison had turned his own mind against him. Eastern State officially closed its doors in 1971, but abandonment didn't erase its influence. Without people, the building began to collapse. Ceilings fell in, walls cracked. Nature crept back inside, but the structure itself, its fundamental design, remained intact. When people returned decades later to tour the ruins, they discovered something was wrong. Not dangerous, not traumatic, just wrong. Sound behaved strangely. Voices seemed to be absorbed by the walls. The silence felt aggressive, heavy. Visitors reported feeling drained after only short stays, exhausted without any physical cause. Many described lingering headaches, nausea, or a persistent anxiety that followed them for days after they left. Paranormal explanations are tempting, but they're also unnecessary, because this prison doesn't need ghosts to be terrifying. It already perfected the tools of fear. Modern psychology now recognizes prolonged solitary confinement as a form of torture. The exact methods pioneered at Eastern State are now banned in many countries around the world. The human brain, it turns out, cannot survive in total isolation without reshaping itself in deeply damaging ways. Eastern State wasn't haunted. It was instructional. It taught walls how to confine thought. It taught space how to apply pressure. It taught silence how to speak. And when the prison reopened as a public historic site, it didn't forget those lessons. Every year, thousands of people walk its corridors. Most of them leave with photos and a sense of history. Some leave shaken, and a few leave quiet, withdrawn, introspective, unsettled in ways they can't quite articulate. Because Eastern State doesn't scream. It doesn't chase you down the hall. It doesn't scare you like a haunted house. It does something much worse. It recreates a state of mind. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as unsettling as I did, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the darker side of history. Shepton Mallet Prison does not feel empty because it never was. It doesn't feel haunted in the way you might expect. No dramatic cold rush, no sudden screams, no chains rattling for attention. The haunting here is quieter, more intimate, like something standing too close behind you without touching you. Welcome to Rabbit Hole Nightmare. The prison opened in 1625. This matters because death was normal then. Executions weren't big events. They were procedures. Bodies were processed, removed, and forgotten. And the building learned that forgetting was efficient. For nearly 400 years, Shepton Mallet absorbed the dead the same way it absorbed the living without ceremony. People died here violently, by neglect, by ending their life in isolation cells where no one heard them struggle. During World War II, American soldiers were killed inside these walls under foreign authority, buried far from home, their names scrubbed from local memory. The dead never left properly. They were never finished. A wing is where the haunting first presses in. Visitors report figures standing at the ends of corridors, always just out of focus. When approached, the figure doesn't vanish. It steps back. Footsteps follow visitors here with precision. Same rhythm, same pause, same stop. Guards used to report hearing breathing behind them, warm and close, as if someone was leaning in to observe their reaction. No one ever turned around fast enough. Cold spots appear, but they aren't random. They form around people, not spaces, as if something is circling them. Some visitors report a sudden pressure on their shoulders, like hands resting there briefly before lifting away. Others hear names, whispered names they don't recognize. Yet, C wing is where the dead become visible. This was the women's wing, the forgotten wing. Women were imprisoned here for defiance, poverty, mental illness, or for simply being inconvenient. Many were isolated for long periods. Some were executed quietly. Some disappeared into medical neglect. Some stopped being recorded at all. This is where the White Lady appears. Witnesses describe her standing motionless in corridors or near cells. Dressed in white, sometimes a wedding gown, sometimes just pale enough to stand out from the dark. She does not approach. She waits to be noticed. When people see her, they rarely react immediately. Instead, they feel a pressure behind the eyes, a sudden sadness, a tightening in the throat. Some feel compelled to speak to her. Others feel an overwhelming urge to kneel or sit on the floor. Paranormal investigators claim EVPs captured in C Wing respond directly to questions with female voices. Calm, corrective, not pleading, but correcting, as if the dead are just clarifying details. Solitary confinement is where the haunting becomes aggressive. These cells were designed to erase thought. Prisoners were left alone long enough that hallucinations were inevitable. Voices appeared. Figures manifested. The mind created companions to survive isolation. The problem is, those companions never left. Visitors standing near these cells report hearing whispering directly beside their ears, or breathing that matches their own. Some feel fingers brush their hair or neck. Several have reported seeing faces inside the cell's faces that don't move, don't blink, don't react, just watching. People often leave these areas shaking, disoriented, unable to remember how long they were inside. Some report intrusive thoughts that don't feel like their own, phrases repeating in their mind, commands, instructions. Stay still. Don't speak. Wait. During ghost hunts, equipment frequently records footsteps pacing in empty tiers. EVPs capture layered voices, multiple speakers overlapping, as if a crowd is speaking through one mouth. Some recordings include laughter. Others include counting. Former staff admitted that even before its closure in 2013, the prison felt unstable. There were mood shifts, sudden anger, unexplained dread, as if the building itself was becoming impatient. When Shepton Mallet closed, the dead were not released. They were trapped with no routine. And now, when visitors enter, the prison reactivates. Apparitions appear more frequently during quiet moments, not when people are excited or loud. The haunting prefers silence, observation, stillness. People report seeing figures behind them in reflective surfaces, glass, metal, polished stone, only to find nothing when they turn around. Some report seeing prisoners hanging in doorways, not swinging, just still. The Cray twins once passed through Shepton Mallet, men accustomed to fear and control. Yet even hardened criminals reportedly found the prison disturbing. Because here, dominance doesn't register. The dead don't respond to intimidation. They respond to attention. Shepton Mallet isn't haunted because people died there. It's haunted because they were never acknowledged, never released, never finished speaking. The prison didn't just contain suffering. It preserved it. And now, the dead participate in the same system they were trapped in. They observe, they follow, they pressure, they enforce silence, they repeat patterns. They don't want to escape. They want continuity. When you walk inside Shepton Mallet Prison, you are not visiting a haunted site. You are entering an active population. Some of them are alive. Some of them aren't. And all of them are watching to see how long it takes before you start behaving like them. Because the prison doesn't punish anymore. It recruits. Thanks for watching. Join me down the rabbit hole again soon.